Good morning, Keith Tebow from FRCmedia. Thank you for joining us. We're taking a look ahead into 2022, as well as looking back into some of the things that we've experienced in 2021. We've spoken a lot some of our other elected officials, and we're going to talk things on a state level now. And please be joined by State Senator Michael Rodrigues, who of course represents the city of Fall River. Senator Rodrigues, how are you? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you and all your listeners. Yep, things are well. Things are well. Here we are, another COVID holiday. So
Yeah, unfortunately, let's hope it's the last one
oh,
for
jeez.
obvious reasons. So, I want to take a few minutes to look back at 2021 and then sort of put your glasses on and take out the crystal ball to see what we can expect statewide in terms of 2022. One of the things, and we've had the opportunity to speak quite often over the past year, but one of the things that is relatively new that was passed just this fall, and we haven't spoken to you about it, is the passage of the state's plan to spend its ARPA money, its American Rescue Plan Act money. As a synopsis, what does it mean for the state that it's been passed and signed by the governor, and what does it mean for Fall River, maybe particularly?
Oh, sir, great questions, Keith. Well, just to inform the listeners, Commonwealth of Massachusetts received a little over $5 billion in ARPA money, American Rescue Plan money. We have until the end of 2024 in which to allocate the money, and the end of 2026 in which to actually spend the money. So the ARPA money was designed in a way that states can be thoughtful, states can be inclusive, states can really think about where would be the best investments for these dollars. So what we in the legislature and what the governor signed last month was phase one, bite one at the ARPA apple. We took about half of the ARPA dollars, $2.5 billion of ARPA dollars. We combined that with $1.5 billion of fiscal year 21 surplus, and we put together a $4 billion spending bill. And some of the highlights of that spending bill, first globally, we spent a lot of money on healthcare, $260 million to infuse into our healthcare systems. As you know, the places like Charlton Memorial Hospital, St. Anne's Hospital were unable to perform any elective procedures. That's where they make money on elective procedures, and so they've been without significant revenue streams for a while. We did a significant amount of money in mental health and behavioral health. It happens to be a priority of the state Senate, specifically a priority of Senate President Spilka. In over 5 years, we plan to invest $400 million in behavioral and mental health in a couple areas. First of all, in beds, just the simple thing like having a bed for someone that's suffering from a mental illness in order to go to. And just as important as beds are staff and personnel, because it's no good having a bed if you don't have anybody to service that bed. We did lots of money in housing, including $150 million to our local housing authority. So, and we know in Fall River, we have a number of public housing authority projects and developments, and $150 million to invest in them. Lots of money in education. Community colleges doing really, really well. Work very, very closely with President Laura Douglas in structuring some of the community college investments. And now let's rifle down what it means for the city of Fall River specifically. All of those statewide components that I mentioned earlier, a lot of those dollars will find their way into Fall River specific organizations. Like I said, could be Charlton Memorial Hospital, could be Bristol Community College. But we also secured a number of local earmarks to support specific projects and organizations here in Greater Fall River, including $1 million for Battleship Cove to support the maintenance and care of the historic naval vessels. It's very expensive to maintain those vessels, and the pandemic has has affected their, their bottom line also. $250,000 I secured for Health First Family Health Center for them to manage a school-based health clinic in the new Durfee High School. We've got a few thousand kids, students that attend Durfee. We should have a health clinic right in Durfee. Many high schools do. We have a brand new state-of-the-art high school, and we're going to contract with Health First. They're professionals. They manage clinics. Contract with them to manage the clinic, bringing health care where it's needed to the students. We have, through the work of Representative Fiola, $210,000 for Frederick Olmsted North Park, improvements to North Park. We have monies for the Fall River Art and Culture community, for the Watuppa Rowing Center. Neighboring communities received money also. Swansea got some sewer and water work. Westport got $1 million for its water and sewer main down Route 6. So the investments that we made in ARPA not only have broad statewide significance, but they're very significant here in the city of Fall River and the region.
Yeah. Let me ask you now, going forward, you said this is the first bite of that apple in terms of the ARPA money, and there's still some time to spend the rest. How difficult is it, if it is, people have needs now, right? But then you also have to balance the needs that are in front of us, some of those you mentioned, with some long-term planning as well, because some of these monies can help the state and local communities in the long form. I guess, how difficult is it to strike that balance when so many people say we need help now, but then you also want to look at maybe saving some of the ARPA funds for other projects that could benefit more people down the road?
Our job is striking a balance every day, Keith. You hit the nail on the head. That's what we do every day, compromise and striking a balance. So we in the legislature were a little bit criticized, if you remember, by the governor. The governor wanted to spend this money right away. We took a different approach. We had 6 public hearings. We had thousands of citizens testify on what they feel would be the proper investments for these monies. We've had over 25 hours of public hearing. And what we heard is what we delivered on in Bite 1. Bite 2 will happen when we think it's time. So this is the situation we're in right now in our economy. Our economy is cranking along incredible right now, Keith. We are seeing record revenues on the state side. So our state tax revenues are coming in at record paces. Every employer you talk to, regardless of the industry segment, is busy. The biggest problem they all have is labor supply and workforce. So what's happening right now in our economy is we have a stimulated economy to begin with because of things like the so-called PPP loans / grants that employers receive, payroll protection plan, tunes of billions of dollars, the supplemental unemployment insurance benefits that those individuals who were laid off were receiving above and beyond their unemployment insurance compensation. A total of $113 billion, federal dollars, were invested in Massachusetts, in hospitals, in schools. The city of Fall River received $73 million of cash of ARPA dollars. Bristol Community College received millions and millions of dollars, ARPA dollars. So the economy is stimulated, which creates a tremendous demand for goods and services. There's money. People want to buy cars. They want to fix their home. They want to install swimming pools. They want to put central air in there. All these things. I mean, you talk to any of these contractors, they are busy. So there's high demand for goods and services. The problem is low supply, Keith. The problem is whether it's raw materials that's tied up offshore that can't get unloaded, whether it's the supply of labor or workforce, you just cannot get anybody to work for you, has created a problem with inflation. Massachusetts, over the last 3 or 4 years, we're seeing inflation at a rate of about 1 or 2% per year. It's probably going to be closer to 6 or 7% this current year. That's a real problem. So any additional dollars that we invest in programs just get eaten up by inflation. So we have to be careful, which is why we're taking our time, which is why we're listening to all of the experts. And we have lots of tremendous economic experts, economists here in Massachusetts, listening to them being smart on how we spend these ARPA dollars. They're not going anywhere, Keith. They're in the bank. They're not going anywhere.
Right. Let me just ask you now that leads to my next point about how revenues have been good in the Commonwealth. For people who don't know, you're the chair of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, which is, help shepherds, the budget forward and help shepherds bills through the Senate to get passed, and working with your House colleagues. I know you're already starting the process for the fiscal 2023 budget in the state of Massachusetts. How will these, rosy revenue projections impact what may be done next year, come July, when the new fiscal year starts?
Another good question, Keith. Yeah, they'll have a significant impact, and you're correct. So, we finally passed the ARPA bill on December 6th. We took a couple weeks off, and on the 21st of December, right before Christmas, we began our FY23 budget with something that's called a consensus revenue hearing that we in the Senate, along with our partners in the House, along with the administration, the governor and his team, led by Secretary of Administration and Finance Mike Heffernan, that we had a day-long hearing, bringing all these economists in again to try to forecast what we can expect, what we expect revenues to be for fiscal year 23. Remember, fiscal year 23 does not even begin until next July 1st and ends June 30th of 2023. So it's looking in this crystal ball a long way down the road and trying to forecast as best we can. And so fiscal year 22, the year that we're currently in, we forecast is going to be a record year. Monies are really flowing in. Tax dollars are coming in much higher than what we expected because of all that stimulant, all the federal stimulant that we had talked about earlier. We expect that to slow down in FY23. And instead of a 5, 6, 7, 8% revenue increase year over year, back to what's normal, about 2 or 3%. So we're still, we're still going to have additional revenue, but it's going to slow down.
Yeah. Let me ask you one last question about the year 2021. What other projects did you and our legislative delegation, foster throughout the past year that are of benefit of Fall River that people may know about or may not know about?
As far as projects go, without a doubt, the most significant happening in 2021 was Offshore Wind. Was finally on the third. A couple things happened in Offshore Wind. First of all, the roadblock that President Trump put on for permits for the offshore wind projects that were already procured were lifted, and Vineyard Wind and Mayflower Wind, which were awarded the first and second procurement, got the green light and the permit sign off to get to work on those. The big news was the third procurement, another 1,600 megawatts of offshore wind. The governor, well, not the governor, it's the Department of Energy Resources, awarded the contract to both Vineyard Wind and Mayflower Wind. They bifurcated the contract, which created an amazing win-win situation for Greater Fall River and the South Coast. Let's start with Mayflower Wind. Mayflower Wind was awarded an additional 400 megawatt procurement. They agreed, if they were given this procurement, that they would establish their operations and maintenance facility, we call it the O&M facility, in Fall River at the site of Boarding Remington Company, right adjacent to the Fall River State Pier. That is amazing. This is a multi-million-dollar investment. This will be the headquarters for the company as they install, service, and maintain these hundreds of wind turbines off the coast. Mayflower Wind also committed to contracting with Gladding Hearn Boatyard right across the river in Somerset to construct 2 or 3, I forget if it's 2 or 3, what's called CTVs, crew transport vessels. These are high-speed vessels that just transport crew from shore out to the turbines, 26 miles out to sea. High-speed, state-of-the-art crew transport vessels constructed right here with local labor at Gladdinghurn Boatyard. And two other things. Not last but not least. Next is Mayflower Wind is committed to interconnecting their power that's coming from out in the sea. All that power is going to come in by cable and connect to the grid at Brighton Point Power Plant, which means a massive investment in the technology and the equipment. You don't just plug it in like you're plugging an extension cord from Home Depot. If the power comes in DC, because it's more efficient to transmit electricity DC, it's got to be converted to AC before it's dumped into the grid. And it's got to be converted in such a way that it doesn't cause any interruptions or spikes in the grid. So there's lots and lots of investment in equipment that's going to happen at Brighton Point. And last but not least, with Mayflower Wind, they committed $27 million investment grant to the South Coast Community Foundation in order for them to invest in educational opportunities and social service programs, in food kitchens, in homeless shelters, in areas of need here in the South Coast, using the Community Foundation, whom we all know and love, using the Community Foundation as their fiscal agent. So that's all the great news from Mayflower Wind. But let's not forget about the other procurement. You got another minute?
Sure. We got about another minute.
I'll be real fast because what else is very exciting is Vineyard Wind. Vineyard Wind, like I said, they bifurcated the procurement. Vineyard Wind got 1,200 megawatts. They partnered with a company out of Italy called FRCMedia, and they're going to construct a $300 million cable manufacturing company at Brighton Point, employing hundreds of people in living wage, high wage, good manufacturing blue-collar jobs, manufacturing all the cable that's going to be needed, not just to connect all these turbines out here in the North Atlantic, but connecting all the turbines up and down the North American sea coast. So exciting stuff, lots of investment, lots of economic development, and I think that's the biggest story of 2021.
Yeah. So let me ask you two final questions about 2022. First of all, Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito have announced that they're not going to be seeking a third term in office. I know that you have, and the rest of the delegation has shown praise for the governor and lieutenant governor, even though they're of the other party, in terms of the cooperation and the work that they've done in not only helping the South Coast but helping the state at large. What is your response, and what are your thoughts about the governor and lieutenant governor not running, and what do you feel that will mean moving forward?
My initial response is one of disappointment. I am a fan of Governor Baker. We've become very close personal friends. I mean, as chair of Ways and Means, I have the luxury of literally meeting him face to face, or sometimes Zoom to Zoom, like today will be every Monday, as we did on Monday, every Monday as leadership meeting. He's a good man. He navigated the state to the best of his abilities through this COVID pandemic, made mistakes. There was no playbook, but he wasn't afraid. When he made a mistake, he righted his course, he corrected it, and he moved on. Big fan of his. Big fan of the lieutenant governor, whose role in the administration was really as the liaison between the administration and the legislature, and the liaison between the administration and local municipal officials. I know, I always joke with Mayor Coogan that he has Lieutenant Governor Polito's cell phone on speed dial also. They were available, they were accessible. When it was no, when I asked a question and the answer was no, it was never no. It's like, well, not that way, but let's figure out how we can address the issue that you're trying to address always. So now this is going to be interesting, because I think what Charlie Baker brought to the table is moderation. He was a centrist. As you said, I'm a Democrat. The entire South Coast delegation are Democrats, with the exception of Representative Steve Howitt in Seacon. He was a Republican, and we got along tremendously, and we supported each other. Why? Because we worked hard to reach consensus, and we respected him. He respected us. There was no gotchas. What we see in politics down in D.C., and what we even see in politics by some here in Massachusetts, is this gotcha mentality, is Facebook one-liners, rhetoric. And that's not how you get anything done. That's certainly not how you lead something like Massachusetts through a pandemic. So it's going to be interesting. I see nobody out there filling that hole in the middle. There's a couple Democratic candidates running. They're going to be very, very, very progressive. There's one Republican running. He's a Trumpster. He's going to be very, very, very conservative. So it's going to be interesting.
Is there just one quick follow up on this? Is there a fear that things may kind of slide back when I speak to you a year from now and we're getting ready to inaugurate a new governor? That that sense of cooperation, may have some fissures in it, if you will.
Well, we've got to let the smoke clear to see who's going to jump into this race. If there's going to be any other candidates jumping into this race. Rumor has it that our Attorney General, Maura Healey, is going to jump in. She brings a lot to the table. She's obviously very intelligent. She's been elected statewide. She has a lot of money in the bank, which you need money in order to mount a serious campaign. And she's a known commodity. I have dealt with the Attorney General. I deal with her all the time on her budget. So I think if she does jump in, she will be the perceived leader of the pack and the front runner, which means that, when you're running out in front in a campaign, you've got the target on your back, and they'll be shooting arrows from members of her own party to try to win the primary, and certainly from the Republican candidate.
Yeah. Finally, now, again, with your crystal ball out, what are some of the projects you hope you'll be working on in 2022 with the delegation here in Fall River that could positively impact the region this coming year?
Oh, I'm sorry. I lost you there.
No, you're still
Keith,
here. Yeah,
but I didn't hear your question. I can hear you now. Yep.
Yeah, well, the question was, what are some of the projects you have on the table for 2022 that could positively impact Fall River and the region?
Yeah, continue investments in our infrastructure. Finally completing the Route 79 project, which will open up lots of area along our waterfront. Continued investments in our waterfront. As I said, we were able to secure $1 million for Battleship Cove. That's only one area along the waterfront. And, striking the balance down there between a working commercial waterfront, now that Offshore Wind is here, our state pier, the Fall River State Pier is doing pretty well. Not striking a balance between commercial and recreational opportunities. It can't be all of one. And then working with our colleagues in local government in, helping them wherever they happen to need help.
Yeah. All right. Senator Michael Rodrigues, as always, thank you for joining me. Happy New Year, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Happy New Year anytime, Keith. It's a pleasure. Happy New Year to you.
All right. Thank you.
And
thank you for joining us here on
Most
FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great day.